One, two, three. Yeah, you already know what it is. It's your boy Garvey, G Black, Costa Rican legend, rap legend. And today is a special one. Now, all of my guests been very special, but one is definitely a special one today. My guest today is a two-time Grammy winner, Latin Grammy winner, jazz musician, multi percussionist at that. Recorded with the likes of Panamanian salsa legend Ruben Blades and many, many others. Earned his music degree in the Puerto Rican Conservatory of Music School in 2007 and now resides in New York City. He's also a fellow Costa Rican musician such as myself, and I'd like to welcome Felipe Fournier. Am I saying it right?
Yes,
Yeah. Hey, how you
thank you very
doing?
much. I'm
Nice to
great.
have you here, man.
I'm great. Thank you very much for inviting me to your program, to your podcast. Thank you to everybody who is listening to us. And yes, an honor to be here. I think we're gonna have a really good time talking about
But
music,
very
Costa
interesting.
Rica,
Yeah,
culture. Yeah.
very interesting. Thank you very much for accepting the invitation. Felipe, first and foremost, Um, man, I mean, congratulations to your Grammy wins.
Thank you. Thank
Two
you.
times, correct?
Thank you. Yeah, I have it here.
Oh
You
yeah,
want me
yeah.
to
Let the
show
people
it to
see
the
it
people?
so they
Yeah.
can know what's going on. Yep. Look how beautiful
Yeah.
that is. Felipe Fournier.
So this is
Okay.
for the best album in mariachi ranchera
Uh huh.
category. The name of the album is Las Caras Lindas,
Okay.
and it's a song who talks about the beautiful black faces in the Caribbean and the
Mhm.
beautiful in black faces in Latin America.
Mhm.
So, well, I think it's a good starting point to talk. It's
Well,
a good point.
let's discuss that. Let's discuss how pivotal it is to use the platform of music and the talent that we harness to bring forth the discussion of racism, discrimination. What's your take on it?
Well, as you know, I am from Costa Rica. My name is Felipe Fournier, which is a French last name, so I have a French descendants. And as most Costa Rican, we are a mix of Aboriginal Native American people from the land from Central America, black people also from Africa, European people. In my case, in my specific case, from France and Spain, of course. But as a society, most of us we look at us as white Europeans living in Central America, right?
Hmm.
And that's the image that I have growing up. I knew that something was off since I was a little kid because every time that I used to go to the beach all the time because my father is also a musician and he used to work as in a band in a hotel in Guanacaste
Okay.
in the Pacific coast.
Hmm.
I used to go to the beach all the time, but only to the Pacific coast, Punta
Hmm.
Arenas and Guanacaste.
Okay.
And I was like, I want to go to Limon. I want to go to the Caribbean, coast of
Yeah.
the Caribbean. And something unconscious in my family and my friend, they were like, no, no, Limon, don't go there. It's dangerous.
Mm.
I was like, but why? I never understood that. When I turned 15, I went by myself
Mm.
for the first time because I wanted to meet this legend, the Walter Ferguson, Mr.
Walter
Walter
Ferguson. Yeah.
Ferguson, Mr. Walter Gavitt Ferguson, who is the most important calypsonian in the history of our country, of Costa
Mm.
Rica. And I went to meet their culture and their food. I used to listen to this. I used to hear these legends that people in there they have a different language. They don't speak Spanish. They speak this
Hmm.
Mecatelio language, and they eat different things like
Hmm.
rice and beans with coconut milk,
Uh-huh.
and they do this all these different things. That was like something mysterious for me,
Hmm.
right? So I went, I fell in love with the culture. I made up some friends immediately, some very good friends from A.K.A. Calypso band.
Hmm.
A.K.A, Dayanti, and Wechi, they're my friends. I met them playing in the street, playing in the street in Cahuita.
Wow.
And I met the genius, Walter Ferguson, right?
Mm.
Then when I came back, I was amazed and telling my family and my friends, "Oh my God, limon is amazing, cahuite is amazing." After that, I started. I never went again to a beach in Guanacaste and Punta
Oh, Punta
Arenas.
Arenas. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Never,
yeah.
yeah. Only if I have a gig or something like that. But every
Ah,
time that I have to go on vacation in Costa Rica, it's cahuita.
it's Cahuita.
Cahuita, yeah. And
Beautiful place.
my wife is from Mexico. I met her in Mexico, and first time that we went to the beach, I told her we need to go to Cahuita. It's the my
My father
favorite
grew up there
place.
actually when he came from Panama.
Oh,
Cahuita,
in
yeah, definitely.
Cahuita,
Yeah,
yeah. There
definitely.
is a lot of connection between Panama and
Mm-hmm.
Cahuita.
Definitely.
So starting there, I started to notice that perception of us as a European, white European country in
Mm-hmm.
Latin America was something was off. But since we are little kids, we are told that we are La Suiza Centroamericana.
Mm.
I don't know if you heard about it, but
I've definitely heard that
yeah,
term. Yeah,
like the Central American Switzerland,
yeah.
which is ridiculous
Like the cream of the
because
crop when it comes to
yeah,
Central America. Yeah.
which is ridiculous because we are not we can't compare our reality with Europe
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa. So I start to see like no, there's something that is off, but racism as the term as the word racism never came out because we don't have that conversation in our country because we don't have the deeper problems that maybe in the Caribbean or here in the States, the black
Attention, the level of
the,
attention. Yeah.
yeah, the black population have
Mm.
that struggle because we are fortunate in Costa Rica. We're very fortunate that the black population in Costa Rica, black people in Costa Rica, they never came to Costa Rica as African slaves.
Yeah.
We didn't have African labor in Costa Rica.
Mm.
The majority of the black population in Costa Rica came as free men from Jamaica to
Yeah.
Costa Rica in
Mm.
order to help building the train,
Yeah.
the train from San Jose to the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's because of that. Maybe it's because of we don't want to see it. Maybe it's a mix of different situations, but we don't have that conversation or that conscience, that historical conscience
You think it's
about it.
denial? You think Costa Rica's in denial? I mean, there were this times when the blacks that lived in Limon in the Caribbean part of Costa Rica back, I believe, in the 50s or 60s, when they migrated towards San Jose, where they was discriminated against, and they kind of wasn't even allowed to be in the capital, San Jose. No, at that
Yeah.
time the capital was Cartago, actually.
Aha.
You know what I mean?
Actually there was a limit. It's
Mm.
called Turrialba.
Turrialba. Yeah.
Turrialba is the limit that, for some time in our history, and that's something that we don't learn in school. But for some
Yeah.
time in our history, that was prohibited to
To pass
black people
Turrialba.
to pass Turrialba. Aha.
Imagine that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I know that because my teacher, my very first teacher of vibraphone and xylophone
Mm-hmm.
in Conservatorio Castella, I went to my high school in Conservatorio Castella. He is from Turrialba, and he told me that story because he seems white, but his grandmother is black,
Mm.
and he told me that he was allowed to pass from Turrialba to San Jose, but not his grandmother,
Because of the
which
skin
is crazy.
complexion. They assumed that
Yeah,
he was more Caucasian. Yeah.
yeah, which is something crazy. So
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of everything. G, it's not 100% denial because we are not conscious about it, but there's some element of denial. There's some element of not having that historical struggle. There's some element of that we are fortunate that we didn't brought slaves directly from Africa. There's this combination of elements that we perceive ourselves
Fear factor. The fear factor. The less educated when it
Mhm,
comes to. I could only assume Felipe back in those days when when the majority of Costa Rica was all more indigenous people. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Where all of a sudden the black people that migrated towards the Caribbean part was looked upon as like was alienated basically because of the lack of not knowing who these people are. You know what I mean? That wounded up there. So
Yeah.
fears, a lot of fear.
Well, that's the root of every single racism and xenophobia in the world. Not
Yeah.
only from white or blacks. It's from Europeans or Americans to Latinos.
Definitely.
It's from Costa Ricans to from Nicaragua.
Hmm.
It's from Chinese people to Japanese.
Mm.
It's a the fear of seeing something or somebody different,
Fear of the
whi-
unknown. Yeah.
which we call in Spanish otredad.
Hmm.
It's seeing the otherness,
Hmm.
seeing the otherness in the other people. And I don't know what's your language. I don't know Mecatelio. I don't know what's your why you put coconut milk in rice and beans.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know
Yeah. Mm.
why do you like this weird music with this
Mm.
instrument that we don't have in San Jose. So
Mm.
because of that, I start to fear and I start to tell to
Mm.
my family, or that's what my grandma or
Yeah.
my grandpa used to tell me, don't go there because it's dangerous.
Mm.
But it's not because they have a bad experience in there. It's because they see these other people are different. They're like, oh no, they can assault you, they can do something bad. But it's not the case.
Mm.
I was very fortunate that I had this opportunity when I was 15 years old, and then I came visiting every single opportunity I have when visiting not only Cahuita, Puerto Viejo,
Mm.
Punta Uva,
Mm.
Tortuguero, Limón,
Mm.
Limón, el puerto de Limón. Limón
Mm.
itself is beautiful. And then I had the opportunity to finish my degree in classical music in Universidad Nacional.
Okay.
As I told you, my father is a musician, my grandfather,
Yeah.
my
You
great
come from a
grandfather.
family of a lineage of musicians.
Yeah, but
Impressive.
it's funny because it's interesting because I am the first quote unquote educated
Mm.
musician,
Okay.
right? And I say
Okay.
quote unquote because admire the I really admire the skills and the musicianship that quote unquote non-educated musicians have. That perfect ability to listen to
Ear
one
musician.
melody.
Ear
Hmm.
musician. Yeah. I'm an
Exactly.
ear musician. That's what I
To hear
consider myself.
one
Mm.
melody and being able to play it immediately,
Mm.
which is what my dad does or my grandpa used to do, or my
Mm.
great grandfather, and then see my father sees himself always. He sees himself as a lower class musician
Really? Wow.
than
Interesting.
the symphonic
Mm.
trained musicians, for example, classically trained musicians,
Yeah.
because he was not able to read
To
a
read the
chart.
read notes and everything. Yeah.
Exactly. So when
Mm.
I started school very young in Conservatorio Castella, I started to my first piano lesson as I was 3 years old,
Mm.
and then when I went when I started to study music in school in
Mm.
university, I was amazed that these highly trained classical musicians that my father admired, they were not able to play a single melody by
Mm.
ear.
Mm.
They were not able to improvise
Really?
C major in a cumbia.
C major. Mm.
Yeah, like just play the white notes in the
Mm-hmm.
keyboard
Mm-hmm.
and play some rhythms in a cumbia rhythm, and
Mm.
didn't have a chart in front of them. They weren't able to
They
do that.
weren't able. Wow.
And I was like, wait, why my dad is amazed by these people, and why he thinks that uh, why he thinks that they're better than him
Mm.
if they're not able to do all these things that he
Mm.
does all the time. So starting from there, I balance my interest towards Latin American music, popular Latin American music,
Mm.
popular rhythms like cumbia, salsa, vallenato, Caribbean music, and jazz. But which is at the end of the day the African diaspora in Latin America and the African diaspora in United
United
States,
States.
right? Jazz and the Afro Latino music.
Yep.
So in other words, I was trained all my life in European music, and then I found that this music from Africa and that African diaspora in our continent, it's far more interesting for my ears and for
Mm.
my musical, my classical music
Training. Mm.
trained brain
Mm.
to analyze and to feel and to play than the classical music. So I started to get involved with the music more and more and more until I had the opportunity to found this amazing program in Puerto Rico, which was was offering formal music studies in both of them.
That's in 2007 when you studied at the conservatory in Puerto Rico.
Exactly. So
Okay.
I finished my degree in classical music.
Mm.
I graduated from Universidad Nacional in Costa Rica
Okay.
in 2006, and then I moved to Puerto Rico in 2007
7.
to start this program in jazz and Caribbean music. That's what
Mm.
the program is called. Now, listen, this is it's interesting because this conservatory
Mm.
was founded by Pablo Casals,
Mm.
which is one of the most important uh, cello violoncello players in the history of the world. Pablo Casals, he was from Spain.
Mm.
He left Spain because of the dictator Franco.
Mm.
Was he was a political refugee from
Okay.
Spain to Puerto Rico,
To Puerto Rico.
and he founded the conservatory in Puerto Rico because Puerto Rico at the time they didn't have a symphonic orchestra,
Mm.
so they gave him the task to
Mm.
yeah to form this orchestra. And he said, well, I need trained musicians, so at first I need a school, and he formed his school. This was 55 years ago.
Wow.
55 years ago he
Imagine that.
founded. So it's a European black sorry, European white man from Spain.
Mm.
He came to Puerto Rico, which is the Caribbean. We have all the mixes between Native American Aborigines,
Mm.
black people, Taino people, Europeans. So he came as a white man from
Mm.
Europe to Puerto Rico. He established this conservatory,
Mm.
and then we have a lot of generation of amazing classical musicians. But some 10 years ago, this guy came with the idea of, okay, let's if in America they have in Juilliard they have classical musical and they have jazz
Uh-huh.
program, and in Berkeley they have jazz
Berkeley.
program, and in New England Conservatory they have jazz music. Why we don't have that in Puerto Rico?
Puerto Rico.
Let's
Mm.
do a jazz program and let's merge with jazz and Caribbean music. And man, you are not gonna believe this. I thought that was the most amazing idea, but once I was there, I met people inside the conservatory, teachers
Mm.
who they some of them were pupils of Pablo Casals, that they were not happy at all that I'm quoting here, a respected institution like the Conservatory of Music of Puerto Rico was teaching and degrading their status, teaching black music,
Oh,
teaching
really?
music from those negros salseros. Yeah,
Mm.
for
Mm.
me, it was like a what? Because that was the first time that me as a Costa Rican could feel the racism. But not only that, I felt even better to see the response
Mm.
of the teachers in the jazz program defending their culture, and they were not black. They're not all of them.
Mm.
Some of them were black. My teacher, he rest in peace, Andrew Lazaro. My teacher,
Okay.
rest in peace. He was not a black man, but he told me this saying, this popular saying that they have in Puerto Rico that I love it. He told me, man, we have this. I am not black visible, right? But if you go to my ancestors, somebody's black because this is Puerto Rico, this is the Caribbean. So they have
Mm.
this saying that says, okay, when somebody is feeling muy blanquito,
Mm.
when somebody's feeling like I'm too white, you can say them back. ¿Y tu abuela dónde está? And where is your grandma?
Yeah.
Yeah, where is your
Where's
grandma?
your
Because
grandmother? Yeah. Mm.
yeah, because if you feel muy blanquito, there's some chance that your grandma or your aunt or your uncle or somebody in your family is black. So
Mm.
he told me that, and I was amazed to see the reaction of the teachers. And I'm saying again, black people, non-black people, mestizo people, people from all colors defending their culture because
Mm.
they understood that it was very very important to not only to defend, to teach, to preserve and teach the music of amazing black musicians in Puerto Rico like Ismael Rivera, like El Gran Combo de Puerto Rico,
Mm.
like El Rafael Itier,
Wow.
like the
Big
great
names.
Tite Curet Alonso,
Mm-hmm.
which bring me to the Grammy because this composition, Las Caras Lindas, which is the name of the album
Scott
that we won
Lindas.
the Grammy for, it's a composition by the great Tite Curet Alonso,
Mm.
and it's poetry to being able to see the beauty in the black face instead of seeing the black face as something different or instead of seeing it with
Grading or
fear or with
something dark, a dark figure like that's like dark energy kind of. Yep.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. He said, no, las caras lindas de mi gente negra,
Mm.
the
Wow.
beautiful black faces
Of
of
my
my
black
people.
people.
Yeah,
Wow.
of my black people.
Interesting, man.
Yeah,
That's an interesting story right there, man. And when did you
yeah,
start to play the percussion on Felipe? As I understand, you're a multi percussionist, right? You play multiple instruments in percussion.
yeah, yeah. I started to play percussion when I was 15 years old
Wow.
with my teacher William Ramos,
Okay.
who is from Turrialba, the one that
Okay.
I was telling in Conservatory Castella.
Mm.
But before of that, I had a formal training in piano since
Okay.
I was 3 years old.
Mm.
I studied piano from since I was 3 years old until I was 15 years old.
Okay.
So there was, yeah, practically 12 years of
Mm.
studying piano. And
Mm.
in the meantime, I learned something about guitar, electric bass, acoustic bass, trombone, flute, because that's the beautiful thing of Conservatorio Castella. You can try all the instrument that you want.
So you actually is that true that you actually use the keyboard to practice like more so than the vibraphone?
Yeah, all the time.
Mm.
Especially since I moved here to New York because there is no space here and the neighbors are complaining all the time. Never
Oh
saw.
man.
Every time that I need to do a recording, especially
Mm.
now in COVID times, I record with my actual vibraphone, obviously.
Wow.
But my daily practice is on
The
this little
keyboard.
keyboard. Yeah,
Yeah, the
on
keyboard.
this
Yeah.
one, on the other
It's the
one,
controller,
on
right? That's the controller, right?
yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
a MIDI
Those are
controller.
great.
Yeah.
I got one of those myself. Well, actually, let me see. I got it right.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I got one
Yeah.
myself too.
That's amazing. That's when I do my daily practice or I have a bigger one if I
Ah.
need to do something with more register. But that's
Mm.
where I do my daily practice and then I pass it to the vibraphone.
Wow.
This was a lesson that I learned with the great Stephen Harris. He's
Mm.
one of my favorite vibes players. He is
Mm.
a black American musician
Mm.
from here, from New York, from
Mm.
Albany, and I have the opportunity to take some private lessons with him like
Mm.
10 years ago, and he told me you already have the technique, so you don't need to be physically practicing every day in the vibraphone.
Mm.
But my history with the percussion, it's funny because I always say that the percussion, but specifically
Mm.
the vibraphone shows me. I didn't choose the vibraphone as an instrument.
Mm.
He shows me because I started in the piano since I was 3 years old, and I never wanted to play the piano. I hated my piano
You
lessons.
hated the piano?
I hated my piano lessons because I wanted to, since I have memory, since I
Yeah.
was a little kid, I wanted to play the drums. And
That's
my
so crazy.
father, my father, in the other hand, he's a pianist. He plays the keyboard.
Yeah.
My grandfather plays the keyboard. My great grandfather, they all of them play the keyboard, and he didn't want me. He told me then, and now that I am grown up man, he told me that he didn't want himself as a professional musician to came after the gig at 4 a.m. and having a 5 years old kid blasting the drums at 8 a.m. So that's why he said, no, you know what? keyboard and headphones, and
And that's it.
that's it.
Yep, keyboard.
Yeah, but I always wanted to play the drums so bad, all
You
of my life.
serious?
So
Wow.
I started. I practiced the piano. I studied the piano for 12 years. I love music since I am a kid. I used to
Mm,
hate my piano lessons, but then when I was alone by myself with the piano, I started to not doing my lesson, just having fun playing songs from the radio on the piano and on the piano and
mm.
playing things or improvising. I I love music, so that was this love hate relationship with the
Why did you
piano.
hate playing the piano though? I played the piano when I was 10 years old, man. I went to the Tony Bennett School of Piano in Brooklyn, New York.
Ah,
When I was
cool,
10, I didn't
cool.
continue because I'm just
Yeah,
I got had a attention disorder where I get bored rapidly. So I move on to the next thing rapidly. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
I should have. I regret it. But why
Well,
why did you have a hatred for the playing the piano?
because I wanted to improvise and do things that were more creative in the
Mm.
piano, and the lessons didn't allow me to do that. And
Mm.
that's a problem that now I am a music educator myself now, and now as a music educator, I that's the problem that I work on it with every single of my students, no matter how young they are or
Mm.
how old. I always am working with the
Creativity
creativity,
part. Yeah.
yeah, with the creativity subject, because take for example, if you are going to take a paint lesson, you start doing whatever you want, right? Okay, paint whatever you want, or paint a tree, but imagine the tree and paint whatever you want. If you go to a literature lesson, you say, okay, let's start with a poem or with a haiku or whatever. Invent your own thing, create
Mm.
your own thing. You go to a theater drama lesson, and you say, okay, let's say improvise a scene. Let's improvise something. Let's create something, but not in music. Since day one, they
Mm.
tell you, okay, play this. Da 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 da.
Do re mi fa sol la ti, and this is the
Uh-huh.
same thing. Yeah.
And
Mm.
then read this, Bach, Mozart, Chopin, read
Mm.
and study all the grades, which is great for the technique,
Mm.
but there is no opportunity to spark creativity.
Genius. Yeah.
Now I understand that because I am a music educator, but back in the day when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, I couldn't understand that with words, but I felt that something was off. So that's what the reason that I hate the piano lessons. But I
Mm.
continued to study piano and musical theory
Mm.
and until I was 15. And then when I was 15, I rebuilt myself and I was like, you know what? I don't want to I don't want to keep doing this. I don't like it. I'm going to change to the drums, to
Mm.
drums and percussion. I changed to drums, and with the first week that I was in taking drums lessons,
Mm.
I found this instrument like abandoned in a corner, in a dark corner in the percussion room.
Uh
And I went to this instrument. And, what is this? And I played the first note, the very first note, ping, and that was love
That's
at
it. Love at
first
first
note.
sight.
Yeah, love at first note. I was like, because immediately I
Mm.
recognized that I didn't recognize the instrument visually.
Uh-huh.
But I'm sure that if there's people here in the audience that don't know what is a vibraphone, I'm sure that you know the sound of the instrument
The
because
sound
it's
of
in
instrument.
a lot
Yeah.
of a lot of great recordings from Frank Sinatra to
Mm.
Tito Puente to Ruben Blades and Say del Solar, Cheo Feliciano, in jazz with Lionel Hampton, with Benny Goodman.
Mm.
So it's a sound that you instantly can recognize. Maybe you don't know the name of the instrument. Maybe you don't know how the instrument looks, but you recognize the sound.
Yeah.
I played and I was like, oh, this is the instrument, and I started to play. I started to improvise and to play things.
Mhm.
And then William Ramos, my teacher, he
Mhm.
came into the room and he was like, "What the fuck? What the fuck are you doing?
Uh,
How do you know how to play this? It's your first week in percussion.
mm.
You barely know how to grab the sticks. Why are you playing this?" And I tell him, well, I know how to grab the sticks now, and I have 12 years of piano training in my
Mhm.
head. So I already know all the scales, all the modes,
Wow.
everything.
Phenomenal.
and so that's what the march between my love for the drums
Hmm.
and the musical training that I have in the piano, and the bridge between the drums and the piano, it's the
Wow.
vibraphone,
The
or the
vibraphone.
or the marimba, because we have
Mm.
the marimba also in Costa Rica. But this
Mm.
specific instrument, it's the bars are made of metal, made of
Yeah.
aluminum.
Okay. Aluminum.
Yeah, aluminum. Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
Made of aluminum, so it's
Mm.
a that gave that particular color and particular tone. It's different than the. It's a warmer and longer tone
Mm.
than the marimba.
That was your
Yeah,
calling, man. That was your calling.
yeah.
Definitely, definitely. And are you do Felipe? I also ask you, do you feel that musicians? I asked this to a lot of other people I interview from Costa Rica. Do you feel that musicians are celebrating Costa Rica as they would celebrate soccer players? Because you know that's the biggest thing, the biggest form of entertainment that everyone goes crazy over. What do you think? Let the people know.
No
Let the
way.
people know how they feel about
No
musicians
way.
in
Can
Costa
you see
Rica.
my can you see my face?
Uh
Like no way. No.
huh.
You know what?
Mm-hmm.
I have this. This is a quote from my friend Marcial Flores, and this is a quote that I stole from him, uh, giving him credit, of course. But Marcial, a great trombone
Shout
and
out to
musician,
Marcella. Yeah.
Marcial Flores.
Marcial, like como
Aha,
artes marciales.
aha, exactly.
Marcial, okay.
Marcial Flores, great
Flores.
trombone
Okay.
player from Costa Rica. He used to say this thing here, this Grammy here that you
Mm-hmm.
see, this is the equivalent to a World Soccer Cup champion.
Mm. In the music
This is,
world.
yeah,
Yes,
this is esta es la Copa del Mundo.
it
This is
is.
the World Cup.
It is.
This Grammy here, this is the World Cup in
Mm-hmm.
soccer.
Mm-hmm.
How many World Cups do we have in Costa Rica? How
Uh,
many?
you know what?
Zero.
I'm not. Yeah, yeah,
Zero.
yeah.
Zero.
Imagine
And
that.
imagine that and see how celebrated are soccer players in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And now I'm gonna ask you how many Grammy winners we have in Costa Rica. How many Grammys?
Not too many.
I Not too many, but we have more than World Cups.
Yeah,
More
yeah,
than
exactly. More than
yeah,
more than the guys that,
yeah,
that don't have the World Cup.
yeah.
Exactly. Imagine.
Only just Walter Flores, for example, he has 6 Grammys.
Mm,
The Sinfónica de Heredia de Costa Rica,
mm.
they have 2 Grammys.
2 Grammys.
I have this Grammy here, and there's I'm sure that I'm living. Eddie Mora also has a Grammy, so that now you're counting like at least 8,
From Costa
like
Rica,
it's
people.
from
Hear
Costa
this.
Rica.
From Costa Rica. So
Exactly,
y'all
like
might have never heard about the rap artists, even myself, and like the all other guys that do Spanish reggae, rap, whatever. But they are Grammy winners from Costa Rica.
so. That's the thing
There
that
you have
we
it.
are we that's and that's a word that I'm quoting from Marcial Flores.
Mm.
This is like winning the World Cup, and people like okay, a Grammy, okay, but then they celebrate when the Cele, la Cele,
Even if they go to the
have the
Mundial,
exactly.
even if they
Even
don't
if
win,
they
but as they go, yeah,
exactly, and I am a big supporter of sport. Don't
mm.
get me wrong, sport, and I love football. I as a Costa Rican, I grew up playing football and watching football, and every 4 years I go crazy with the World Cup, and so don't get me wrong, I don't hate football at all,
Mm.
football, soccer, but I think that we as a society, yeah, definitely we
You
don't
think you
we,
think
we
you
don't
think
get the
you think Felipe though has a lot to do with because you know Ticos, Costa Ricans or Latinos per se are very big when it comes to drinking and partying, and so you know that comes with the package of celebrating a soccer game, the partying, the drinking beers, cervezas. So you think it's more easier for them to indulge in that sort of activity?
well, you can drinking and partying with music also.
No, we know
Kind
that, but
of,
you see,
yeah,
their perception of jazz and classical music is like eso es discúlpeme, but
yeah.
boring. It's more you got to sit down and you can't dance, you can't move your hips like salsa or bachata. You know what I mean? So that's their perception when they because they're not educated when it comes to jazz. You know, there's funky, there's groovy jazz. There's jazz that I've danced to before. You know what I mean? You had
Yeah.
times when hip hop back in the '90s used to used to mix their music, their vocals with the jazz musicians.
Yeah, no, I think well that could be part of the elements that
Mm,
were the drinking and partying personality, but also it's for me it's more related to the fact that we are not educated to pay for the culture and to pay for the music. So even with the, I mean, with football, if you wanna go to a soccer match, you
mm.
have to pay for the ticket. But if not, you can turn on the TV and
Yeah,
you can watch the game for free,
yeah.
right? But not with music.
Mm,
With music, you have to go to the theater or to the club and pay a ticket. And
mm,
Costa Ricans are we are not used to pay for music, not even.
mm,
And now with the streaming, forget about it. Yeah, I
mm,
can download or I can not even download. I can stream
mm.
all the music that I want via Spotify or YouTube or Apple Music or whatever. And I don't have to pay a single dime to the musician
Yeah.
directly. I'm paying to Spotify, but I'm
It's
not
about
paying
right.
to the musicians.
Wow.
So there's a that happens to me a lot of times in concerts in shows in Costa
Mm,
Rica, that
mm,
I see people spending their money in this club
mm,
buying beer and food, but at the time that you charge them $5 for
mm.
a cover, for a
Yeah,
musical ticket for for a music cover,
yeah.
they're like, oh no, that's too much, or no, or they leave the place, or they
They
leave the
complain. Yeah.
venue. I'm like, but why? It's $5. You just spend like $150 in food and beers, and
Mm,
why
yeah.
cannot you spend $5 in music that you are
More the
enjoying?
cover entrance. Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't want to spend nothing on the cover. That's why the club, a lot of the promoters and club owners in Costa Rica started to just say, "Hey, how much do you charge?" And then after that artist or that musician to say, they state their price, and they just pay them, and they get their profit back in drinks and food and everything like that, because nobody want to pay covers anymore.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think that's the but that's one of the things that influence this phenomenon. But it's a mix of all of them. Like
Hmm.
as we say with the racism problem,
Oh
also
my goodness,
it's
bro.
not only with one thing. It's a
Mm,
mix of different things. Yeah.
mm. You see, I feel like it's very important for us to use our platform, to use this our God-given talents to be public people, whether you're a musician, a keynote speaker, just a public figure to bridge the gap and to use. I use my some use their platform for separation, degrees of separation. I use
Hmm.
mine for unification. You know what I mean? And
Definitely, yeah.
what's your take on the Amazon Music strike? That situation that happened with the Amazon Music strike and how it affects immigrants and people that from the Latin background.
Can you fill me in
Are
with the
you are you
situation?
familiar with the Amazon Music strike?
No,
The strike that you're not familiar?
no, not at
Well,
all. Tell me what happened.
there was a situation that happened a while back where a lot of como manifestation like
Hmm.
a lot of people from the Latin and immigrant background um didn't wanted to protest Amazon because they was teaming up with ICE and when it comes to the deportation of Latinos.
Oh, okay. Now, yeah. Now I know what are you talking
Yeah,
about. Yeah, I was not aware that Amazon was cooperating with them,
yeah,
but I am aware, totally aware of the ICE situation
yeah,
and the ICE rights here in
yeah.
New York and especially in the Bronx because I work as a music educator. I already told you, but I told you that I work as a music educator, but I didn't tell you where I do this work. So I am the founder of this program, after school program for Latino kids in the
Mm.
Bronx,
In the Bronx.
called in the Bronx, yeah, for
Okay,
Latino kids in North Bronx,
North Bronx. Okay,
and yeah, and the majority of them are from families from Mexico, República Dominicana,
mm-hmm.
Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico.
Okay,
So they're Mexican and indigenous and black Latino families,
okay.
which they have they're immigrants like me
Mm-hmm.
here, but most of them are undocumented.
Okay.
So their kids, most of them,
What age? What age group?
from 10 years old until 18,
Wow,
from
10 to
10 to
18,
18.
man. Very
Yeah,
young kids, yeah.
yeah. And this program, this specifically program, I have like 7 years here in New York, and
Mm,
I spent 7 years working in programs like this,
mm,
all in all the different boroughs, in
okay,
Queens, in Brooklyn, in Brooklyn, in Sunset Park, for
okay.
example. There is a
Mm,
strong Latino community in
mm,
Sunset Park. In Queens, and in this area of Queens, of La Roosevelt, we have a lot of immigrant culture as well.
mm.
In Manhattan, in the Loisaida,
Low East
the
Side,
Lower
yeah.
East Side,
Mm,
Loisaida, in Harlem, of
mm.
course. And I work with different programs like this, but 1 year and a half ago, I founded this program. Uh,
You founded the
I,
program.
yeah, I founded the program with Michelle Bialik, which is my is the president. It's my boss, the president of
Michelle.
the
Okay.
of the non-profit organization.
Okay.
And I had the opportunity to work with her in another of these programs. So when she wanted to start this program, she told me, "Hey, let's do this in the Bronx.
Mm.
You want to be the founder with me of this program, because this specific
Wow.
program, it's it's focused in anti-gang prevention
Mm.
program for teenagers,
Okay.
because we have a problem of gangs in the Bronx, especially
So were
specifically in
these
North
kids
Bronx.
trouble kids before, or were they in any kind of trouble before or not?
Both of them. Both of
Okay.
them. Some of them were in trouble with gangs. Some of them, they never been in a gang,
Okay.
but they're exposed to it.
Yeah, from the environment, yeah.
Yeah, because they finish school and they don't have anything to do, and they go to the corner, and the corner there's something happening, and
Mm,
somebody offers them a opportunity to do this and to do that, and
mm,
to, yeah, to earn some money.
mm.
So they start to yeah, in
Yeah,
that
I'm
cycle.
all too familiar with that. Definitely.
Yeah,
Mm.
and that's because again, this is a systemic racism that doesn't happen in white communities, because they have the capital, the income, to send their kids to a music program after school. See, so if your kid, it's not because white kids don't get bored. No, they get bored as same
Mm.
as the Latino kids or black kids, but they have a income to send it to tennis classes or chess lessons or music lessons. So we start this program as a free of charge a program for all the Latinos kids
Mm.
in the North Bronx.
And it's been going good for you so far?
Yeah, it's been good because they're so talented, but they don't know that they have talent, because they associate the talent with being rich or being no Latino or being non-black. They're like, yeah, I guess I could do that, but I'm never gonna be a superstar. I'm never gonna be that good playing this instrument. So my mission, it's more than a music educator. My mission is to show them that everybody has a talent, and you just have to discover that
Yeah,
talent.
everyone has a
And
talent. I believe that.
yeah,
Hmm.
that's the what the word talent means. Actually, it
Hmm.
means hidden gift.
Yeah. Some
It's
people
the
some people just don't know how to tap into it. Some people are some people are told what their talent is, and some people have to discover it on their own.
so that's for in my case. I don't remember, since I am a little kid, I don't remember having to think about what I am gonna do. I in when I grew up, because I always wanted to be a musician. That was
Mm.
like a no-brainer for me. But there is people that they have that musical talent and they don't know it. So a lot of my students, they're like, oh yeah, I don't know if I can do this. And then when they discover that they can do that, even if you are poor, even if you are Latino, even if you are undocumented, even you're black, white, purple, brown, whatever your color is, you have a talent. You can explode that, and
Yeah,
you can find
definitely.
something amazing with that.
Mm.
So that's a work that I've been doing here in the Bronx, and I think it's very very important, because going back to the question that you asked me, a lot of our students are from undocumented families.
Mm.
So we had that. information that ICE was doing raids,
Mm,
and some of our families were approached,
mm.
and we have to give them. Fortunately, they were not deported, any of them, but they met. They know a lot of people that were deported because we gave them specific information. Don't open the door. Don't you have the right to remain in your house, in your apartment. They need a warrant order. If they don't have the
Mm.
warrant order, you. So, but we have that situation here. Here is in
So
this
sad
neighborhood.
living in that kind of fear for the kids. I feel for the kids, man.
Yeah,
Kids got to go through that and these and see all these things take place in these times. You know what I mean?
because that creates some wrong perceptions of themselves. I have this student. He's Mexican.
Mm,
He was born in Mexico, but he grew up here. And one day, he always wanted me to teach him Mexican music, and he brought me all these rancheras and
mm.
corridos and Mexican music. So I transcribed that music for him, and then he was able to play it.
Okay.
And then one day he stopped to doing that, and he started to bring all this American music, like country and pop, and he stopped from
Mm,
one day to another. And then I was like, what happened? Yeah, I mean, this music is amazing as well, but
mm.
what happened? And he told me, you know what? I hate Mexicans. And I was, what? But are you aware that you are Mexican? Are you aware that your mom, your dad are Mexican? And he was like, I'm not Mexican. I am American. And he looks more Mexican than I can, I can't even tell you.
So
So there,
somebody gave him some insecurity. Yeah.
it's definitely it's a response of all this
Yeah.
fear
All
and
the things
all
that have been
this.
going on. Like
Exactly.
it's something to be ashamed of. To be
Hmm.
ashamed of. That's like when the Haitian immigrants made their way to New York back in the 80s, and they was bullied so often that some Haitians would deny that they was Haitians.
Hmm.
Same thing, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because
But
of all the insults. Yeah.
it's it's interesting because when you are physically um, when you're clearly physically
The replica of your of,
re-
your,
re- re-
of what you really are. Yeah, yeah,
exactly
yeah.
when
Mm,
when you're clearly physically Asian
yeah,
or black or indigenous,
yeah.
it's something that it's hard to deny because even if you deny it, it's you look to the mirror and it's there is a reminder that okay, maybe you deny but you have this ethnicity, right?
Yeah.
But there are more complex cases, more complicated when you don't seem like being from that race, but you have that. Take me as an example, or any Costa Rican.
Mm,
I'm not white. I'm not white. Hello, yo soy Latino.
mm,
I'm a
mm,
Latino. Maybe I seem white. Maybe if I go to the street, people I can pass as a white
mm,
American male, but I'm
mm,
not white. I don't identify myself with that, and I feel that I have this connection with African music and with Afro-Caribbean music and with the indigenous uh, people and traditions, and it's
mm,
because all of that blood it's inside of me. I have all of that,
mm.
but if I look in the mirror, I cannot see directly that. I have to recognize that. So even for me has been a process of okay, I have to recognize that and I have to be proud of this. But imagine for this student of mine,
Yeah.
he has this struggle of okay, no, I look like this, but I don't want to look like this, and it's hard. But I think at the end of the day, all of this comes to that fear, the fear that we were talking at the beginning,
Mm.
the fear
It's
of the
so hard, man.
otherness.
It's hard. It's so difficult to come out your shell and be who you want to be, man, and be brave enough to be who you want to be.
Yeah,
Mm. You got
it's
to be rebellious. You got to be
yeah.
you got to be a rebel. Even just to be a musician, it's within itself, Felipe. You got to be rebellious because it's not. Sometimes it's not the thing that you might have had more of an advantage than I had because you come from a family of musicians. So where me with the rapping stuff and hip hop, or just music per se in general. I don't come from a family of musicians, so it was so to speak was more taboo to say, oh, he's going to do music,
Hmm.
he's going to engage in music stuff. Nobody believes in that in my family. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 definitely.
So
Yeah,
so you had that, you definitely had that advantage, and I definitely understand what you mean when it comes to the perception that these kids have of themselves based on how society depict them to be. And you know, the bullying that takes place is crazy, man. When I went to school in New York, same thing, man, same thing. But you know, going back to what you were saying earlier too, Felipe. Um, you know, my father's from Panama, mother from Costa Rica. Both of them came over from Costa Rica as immigrants to New York and worked hard like crazy, struggle, and they tried their best. They understood the importance early on when it comes to education. They understood the importance of placing their kid in a school where they could have control over the educators, the teachers that was teaching their kids certain subjects and everything. So they was deeply involved in my education early on, as far as like private schools that I went to in Brooklyn, New York, St. Mark's Day School, Catholic schools that I went to prior to that. You know, I started, me personally, just to share this with you, I started poetry. I was a talented poet. I used to write poetry at the age 9, 10, and 8 years old, and I was one of the most talented poets. Right, but this poetry was religion because this was a religious private school. So I used to write poetry about Jesus, God, everything like that. But I was very talented at writing this poetry. And then, like you said earlier, you said you didn't choose. You said what you do chose you. You didn't really choose it. I can relate to that because I didn't choose. I was in private school. I didn't think I was going to rap, especially being from Costa Rica. That's the last thing I'm thinking of, that I'm going to do rap music. My parents looked at rap music like that's gangster stuff. That's street stuff. You live in a house with two parents. How can you do rap? That's you crazy. We're sending you to a private school. But the thing is that it chose me because I had DJs. I had two DJs that said, "Hey, you're talented at poetry. One day you're gonna rap." I said, "You crazy? Well, I'm not gonna do that." But then he said, you take that same poetry and you put a little melody with the poetry and you put it to some instruments and you're going to see what's going to happen. I didn't believe them. I don't know what they saw in me. These two DJs in Brooklyn, New York. Then I started messing with it during the summertime when I was in the house. I was kind of like an introvert for a period where I just wanted to be in the house. So I started writing the poetry to the beats and everything. And then at 13, I started writing. I made my first demo. Do you remember the time when they had the ADAT machines?
no, no, no,
You don't
no,
remember?
no.
What? I'm not that much older than you, man. I know you don't know.
I,
I know you remember the little ADAT machines where you record your master on your vocals or any instruments in the
no,
studio. The
I,
ADAT machines.
you know what? Because I didn't have
I mean
the,
ADAT tapes, not the
yeah, yeah,
machines.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't had any contact with pro with the producer tools or producing until I moved here to New York.
You
I was
really
all the
serious?
time with acoustic instruments. Acoustic instruments.
So,
I didn't know even how to plug a microphone.
so you when
Yes.
you while you was in Costa Rica, then you didn't So yes, but your first time recording was analog, right? You didn't know nothing digital.
Not digital. My first time
Your
was
first time
digital.
recording was digital?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because again, the classical music school, they didn't teach me how to literally how to plug a microphone. I have some friends now
Yeah.
that in this COVID era and this
Yeah.
pandemic era, that they're struggling learning how to use how to use some.
You serious?
Yeah, because we as musicians, I was fortunate that I learned this when I started to do my own things and my own productions in jazz and Caribbean music, and then with a podcast that I started a podcast with my friend Jeremy Bosch,
Mm.
a podcast of Latin culture,
Mm.
titled Échale Semilla. It's
Échale
a podcast.
semilla.
Échale Semilla, yeah, it's a
Mm.
podcast on Latin culture. So, but not for the school. I was so my dad was more in touch with that, with
Mm.
recording and because he didn't went to the music school.
Mm.
So that's an interesting take of how they are teaching you the music, the right things of music, but it's not practical at the end of
Mm.
the day. If you see, I mean, there is practical things that you learn in school, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
you are not able to learn everything that you know to be a, a functional musician.
A functional musician, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Would you
yeah, but
consider?
yeah,
What'd
yeah.
you say? What'd you
No, no,
say?
no. You were telling me about the eight.
Oh man, I went too far back,
Yeah,
man. I mean, you know what I mean?
yeah,
I had a few A-Dat tapes when I used to record my little rap songs on the A-Dat tapes at the studios that I went to. Then all of a sudden the Pro Tools came around, the Cubase and all the digital stuff came into existence. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So I've been doing it for a while, off and on, man. You
yeah.
can tell, yeah.
No, my first time recording was with Pro Tools.
Pro
Well, Pro
Tools.
Tools, yeah, yeah. And
Mm,
I started. Well, my mentor in this was Walter Flores.
mm,
Walter, a Costa Rican producer.
mm,
He led Son de Tiquicia and Sexteto de Latino. He produced album Mundo, Ruben
mm.
Blades Mundo, and Ruben Blades Tiempos.
Okay.
And
You've worked
so,
with Ruben Blades also, right?
yeah,
How was it
yeah.
like working with Ruben Blades?
Well, I met him here, but I record with him 2 years before I met him.
Okay.
And that's it. Some people are like, "Wow, that's crazy," but no, that you know that's a
Yeah,
normal thing in music.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, we know. Yep,
yeah,
yep.
because
Sometimes you
it's
meet the person without physically meeting them
aha.
and work with them. Yeah.
My story with Ruben, it's for me it's one of these crazy and emotional immigrant stories that
Really?
I love to I love to tell this story because it's a story about immigration, and it's one of those things that I could never been able to live or to experience if I never left Costa Rica.
How is he? Is he meticulous when it comes to his art? How is he when it
He
comes to working with him?
he's a genius. He doesn't say that,
Mm.
but he's a genius. He for me, I had the opportunity to well, of course, to work with him, but I had a podcast. I had the opportunity to have him as
His
a
guess?
guest
Uh,
in our podcast in A.K.A. Semilla,
yeah.
talking not about himself, talking about Gabriel Garcia Marquez and Cien
Mm.
Años de Soledad, because
Mm.
he was a very good friend of Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Mm.
But when and I
Excuse me.
describe him in this podcast, Salud, and
Thank you. Excuse me.
in this podcast I describe him as a Renaissance man.
Renaissance man. He
Yeah,
can do a little bit of everything.
he's a genius actor. He's an
Mm.
amazing lawyer. He's
Mm.
an amazing activist. He was a minister in politics, and he was a politician
In Panama.
in
Yeah.
Panama.
I remember. Yeah.
He's an amazing songwriter and
Mm.
singer. He does a lot of things,
Yeah.
right?
Definitely Renaissance man.
Yeah,
Mm.
but he's a genius, of course. He but he's very humble at the same time.
Mm.
So as a genius, he's very perfectionist.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So I met him like this.